Good morning and welcome to the latest edition of The Road to Recovery. In today's episode, we'll continue to update the Snowy Monero community on how bushfire recovery is progressing here in our region. We'll catch up shortly with Inspector Langdon Gould from the Monero District Rural Fire Service. Inspector Gould will tell us about the hard work the RFS is currently undertaking to ensure our region is ready for the official start of the bushfire season on October 1. We'll let you know about 3 grants that were handed out last week to help bushfire recovery throughout the region, and we'll also keep you up to date with the latest grant information available through the Red Cross and St Vincent de Paul Society. So plenty to get through on today's edition of The Road to Recovery. Joining us on today's edition of The Road to Recovery is Inspector Langdon Gould of the New South Wales Rural Fire Service, Monero District. And Langdon, a good morning to you. Thank you for your time today.
Good morning, Nathan. Good morning, listeners.
Langdon, we're about a month out from the official start to the Snowy Monero fire season. Could you tell us a little bit about the work the RFS is currently doing in preparation for this?
Well, certainly. Look, even though obviously, as everyone knows, we're still doing obviously recovery operations from the fires, we've still been continuing with our hazard reduction work and also to fire trial maintenance works as part of the regular program. And people in around the Cooma area would have noticed just as recently as this last weekend, the hazard reduction burn being undertaken by RFS and Fire Rescue around the Chapman Street Snowy Mountains Highway leading out of Cooma up towards the 4 Mile. You know, those burn programs are important, and we continue to do them as weather conditions allow us to do so.
We've seen this week a number of grass fires actually get out of hand throughout the region. What would you say to landholders who are thinking that this might be a good time of year to do some burning off? What advice would you have for them?
Well, certainly the key is planning. If you wake up one morning and say, "Oh, today's a day, good day, I'm just going to go out and light that," it's probably not the best thing to do, because it's just been clearly shown that those that don't plan well often end up with results they don't want. Look, it's very simple. Firstly, you're legally at the moment, because we're still outside of the bushfire danger period till the 1st of September, you legally have to notify both all your direct neighbours and the Rural Fire Service at least 24 hours in advance. The next bit of information that I'd look at is make sure you've got control lines around that fire, so that, you know, in these cases, because we've got a lot of dry grasses out there, frost-cured grasses, and also the bush now, we've had a bit of rain, it's also drying out as well. If you don't have a control line around it, you also don't have equipment to control the fire, you know, water and pump hoses, etc. And if you're not physically capable of actually doing the work to control your fire, then maybe you should consider whether you strike the match or not. And most certainly the weather. That's a key factor. Not just what's happening that day when you're going to be doing the burn, but what the weather is like in the days and up to weeks after. You know, if you're burning grass, and then it's quite reasonable to expect, if it's just grasses only, that might fully extinguish overnight. But if you're burning piles of timber or anything heavier, or bushwood timber, you can expect under those conditions for that timber to stay hot for days and even weeks ahead. And all it takes is one windy day to come up and stir that fire up, and one ember crosses across out of that area out of your control area, and off that fire runs again. And they're the risks involved. Just as recently as Tuesday afternoon, the 1st of September, a landowner was burning lovegrass. He wasn't able to control his fire, even though it was a very benign day with very little wind. That fire quickly raged, threatened his house and 2 neighbouring houses. And a prompt response from about 8 to 10 Rural Fire Service appliances and handy a contracted dozer next door at the time were able to, bring that fire under control at 10 hectares. But there was, for the landowners involved, there were some nervous moments as that fire raced towards those houses. So a key message here is, even though the day looks benign, especially in that lovegrass country where it's all cured out, make sure you've got proper control lines, you've got the right equipment to control the fire, and that you are competent to be able to do that yourself. before you strike that match.
And Langdon, could you give us a little bit of an update of the hard work the RFS has been doing post the summer bushfires in terms of the Make Safe program and other works throughout the district?
Yes, certainly. The Make Safe program continues. Unfortunately, the last couple of weeks, the machinery has not been able to operate in many places across the Monero because of the distinct amount of rainfall we had. And that's a good thing for the Monero. But unfortunately, one of the downsides is that, the heavy plant that we've engaged, can't operate in that environment. They end up making more damage than they do good, and also getting bogged. So they haven't been able to operate then. But that program has been continuing for a number of months now and will go for a significant amount of time. There's a lot of Make Safe work to be done. We've got a lot of local contractors involved in undertaking those works, and that will continue, as will the liaison with landowners on that work that's being done.
Well, Langdon, thanks very much for your time on today's edition of The Road to Recovery and for providing us with an update of the hard work the Monero District RFS is continuing to do in our region.
Pleasure, Nathan. Thank you.
At last week's National Bush Summit held in Cooma, 3 bushfire recovery grants were handed out to continue supporting mental health and wellbeing in our community and to support the ongoing work of the Two Thumbs Wildlife Sanctuary at Peakview. Matt Trippett, founder of the Fly program, received $42,000 to run the Monero Men in Flight initiative that encourages men to focus on their mental health and the impact of bushfires on their well-being. Another grant was handed out to the Monero Family Support Service, who will deliver a Women Community Connect program that will provide a setting where local communities can attend small gatherings to share stories and support each other through the bushfire recovery journey. And wildlife carer James Fitzgerald, who joined us on the show last week, he has received a $21,000 grant to provide solar electricity at his Two Thumbs Wildlife Sanctuary in Peakview. The solar electricity will be used for accommodation and amenity facilities that are used by researchers and volunteers who use the Two Thumbs Wildlife Sanctuary as a base for studying koalas. Both the Red Cross and St Vincent de Paul Society have grants available to assist you. Red Cross bushfire grants are open until the 30th of September. And Vinnie's, they have $1,000 emergency relief fund payments to distribute to people in bushfire affected areas. For further information on the grants and for assistance in applying, you can always contact the Snowy Monero Bushfire Recovery Team on 1300 345 345. That's 1300 345 345. Thank you very much for your company on today's edition of The Road to Recovery. At any stage, if you'd like to hear previous episodes of the show, you can head along to Snowy Monero Regional Council's website. For now, take care and have a safe week.